Hi, and welcome. It's time for Startup Office Hours. I'm Scott Fox from the Startup Council. We're here today to help you accelerate your startup. If you're an entrepreneur, then you're in the right place, especially talking to early stage founders who are trying to raise money. These are free startup fundraising office hours provided as a community service by the Startup Council. We've been doing this on and off for years now, trying to help accelerate and lift up early stage entrepreneurs who may need some help. Honestly, being an early stage founder is challenging. It's difficult. There are obstacles. And even with all the information out there on the internet, which can bury you, it's hard to find the truth or at least a credible answer. So that's why I hold these startup office hours. I turn on the camera here in my office to help you, whether you are here in Southern California or you're in England or India or Australia or the Philippines or anywhere in between. We're here happy to help you try to accelerate your startup by answering the questions that you might have about startup fundraising. It's a difficult and complicated world, and I've been on both sides for many years now. I'm a serial internet entrepreneur, and these days am mostly an angel investor. I've also written these books behind you here, and those are actually, sorry, these ones. Those are in English. The rest are in foreign translations all over the world. And if you're here tonight because you've read one of my books, I hope that it was helpful to you, and thank you for joining us. What we're going to do tonight is talk about your questions and take pitch practice from the audience, from members just like you. So the Startup Council is a free group, and we're based, as you might guess, at startupcouncil.org. And what we're doing is trying to help everybody find the information that I was lucky enough to benefit from when I worked in Silicon Valley and attended graduate school at Stanford. Not everybody is as lucky as that. And I worked hard and put myself through school there, and it has turned out to be a pretty good bet for me. I'm here today to try to help share the benefits of my expertise with you so that you can go, as I did, from the outside to the inside. So whether you're in Bangalore or Boston, we're here to try to help you understand how the venture capital world works and how you can find funding for your ideas to get them out into the world, to hopefully make the world a better place and make you some money in the meantime as well. This show is about eliminating gatekeeping. I'm really frustrated by the fact that so many people have made so much money in Silicon Valley and have done so little to share it. Not just the money, of course, but also the expertise. There are a lot of us around who now spend most of our time playing golf, and I don't think that's right. So I'm here tonight to try to help you get some of your questions answered. And if you have questions or a pitch you'd like to practice, I'll bring you on camera and we'll do that together. So welcome to Startup Office Hours. I'm Scott Fox. So we're going to get started with a couple of disclaimers, and we're going to turn on the chat here. And we'll put, if you are watching, then happy to have you join us. If you're checking in from LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook, all of those are platforms where we're broadcasting live. And if you post there, as my friend Zach has done, hi, Zach, you can have your comments post here publicly, and we'll try to answer questions in the chat room as well. So it looks like LinkedIn is working. So I'm curious if any of you are out there on YouTube. I know a bunch of you are watching now. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, come on in and say hello as well. And by the way, tell us where you're from. That's always interesting, at least for me, to figure out where we're reaching in terms of how our marketing is working. So the first order of business tonight, of course, is tell your friends. Is there somebody else out there that you know that's struggling with their early stage startup? Come on and join us. This is a free service. I'm trying to help people. And the more of you that are here, the more you can help each other. And this is how you participate, by doing in the chat room here. Yes, Chris, is there a link to a Zoom meeting? Yes, that was already distributed. If you RSVP'd, you would have the backstage link. Backstage, we've got Omid and a couple other folks who are going to come on in a couple minutes. But you're welcome, Chris, to tell us where you're from and put your questions in the chat room there. And next time we can have you join us in the chat room as well, or on the camera link as well. So I want to suggest a couple things here. Zach's in San Francisco today, and Chris is Newport Beach. Okay, mostly California so far, but I know there are others of you across the world watching. Let me give a couple quick disclaimers. This is not qualified legal or financial advice. You should consult your own professional advisors. Things change all the time in the legal and financial worlds. And of course, your situation is different than anyone else's. So what I'm doing is just trying to be helpful. This is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Similarly, this session is being recorded and will be posted live after it's live online on YouTube and a lot of other places. So if you'd like to join us, we're happy to have you, but don't say anything stupid or reveal anything too confidential, because it will be accessible worldwide through the magic of the internet. So hope that you're going to join us here tonight and have some fun. So Omid is in Orange County, and Chiranjeevi is in Banyans. Where are you? Danny's in New Zealand. Where are you, Chiranjeevi? And Reed's from Charleston, South Carolina. Great. Nice to meet all of you. What we're going to do is go through questions and pitches, like I said. So let me just see if there's anything else. Go ahead and put in your questions or invite your friends, like I said. And we'll get going here in a second. So as I said, you can comment on YouTube or you can comment on LinkedIn, and both of those feeds will show up here, and we can address everybody's questions while we're on the air together here. And there's another Orange County. Hello, Diane. And let me just, a couple suggestions here. Bangalore, excellent. I was in Bangalore in December, a cool town. A lot going on there in Bangalore. Makes California look quiet. So if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, we'd appreciate that. We crossed 20,000 subscribers recently on YouTube, so people are paying attention and finding value here. We really appreciate it. And if you have follow-up questions, perhaps if you're watching this later, for example, you can post in the comments on YouTube, and we'll try to answer your questions there as well. So if this is a replay situation, you didn't make it live, I do this every month anyway, at least once a month. So you're always welcome to watch our email newsletters and join in live. But if you don't catch that, you can post on YouTube or LinkedIn, and we'll try to help you there as well. Speaking of that, the way to subscribe is over here at startupcouncil.org. We've got services and event invitations, news, deals, all kinds of stuff that I think would be useful to all of you. At least I hope so, because that's what we would like to be doing, is helping you. That's what we're doing. And also you can follow the Startup Council over on LinkedIn. Okay, so that's what we've got. That's the plan tonight. And let's go on. And it looks like, Omid, looks like you're the first guy here. So let's bring you on. I know you were with us last time. And let me find the right buttons here. We got a bunch of buttons. Okay. So Omid, can you confirm? Let's see. Yeah, you want to do a pitch, right? You emailed me. So this to Chris and other folks, if you're asking how you get on camera, there's a link in all of our event postings. And you can send in a submission like Omid did here beforehand, and I need you to do that at least 24 hours before the show so that I have a chance to digest it all. So, okay. So I'm going to bring Omid on here. How do you do that? They're always changing. On who else we got back there? Oh, Dan's there. Okay. Well, all right. I'm going to bring you both on then. So here's Dan and here's Omid. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Excellent. Okay, good.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you both. Hey, Dan and Omid. Okay, so you guys both wanted to pitch, is that right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, let's do Omid's first, since he was here first, and then Dan, we can try yours as well. And these are just a couple-minute pitch, pretty casual. Not no checks are being written tonight. This is mostly practice, but we'll hope that it's helpful to you. And both of you have been here before, so you kind of know the drill, I think. So let me. How do we do this week? They change it all the time. There we go. Okay, so there we go. All right. So Omid, you are on, and I'm going to put on a timer for 2 minutes. And everybody else, what we're doing here is trying to help Omid make his pitch better. So he has an early stage startup, and he'll tell us about it in 2 minutes or less. No slides. We just keep this casual, kind of like an extended elevator pitch, really, right?
Yeah.
And together we'll all listen to him, and then I'll give him some feedback. And it'll be great if those of you in the chat room had feedback as well. We're probably not going to be able to debate the merits of the business itself. That's usually a longer conversation. But what we're really trying to do is help him add or subtract things to the pitch, like, he didn't mention this, or you kind of glossed over this important point, like kind of style points as much as content, but of course some content as well later. And you're also welcome, of course, to put as much as you want in the chat room, because I'm sure if you have valuable things to say, Omid would love to watch the replay later. So that's the plan here. I'm going to look for my timer app, and we're going to give you a couple minutes. And you're an adult, I'm not worried, but sometimes people runs on, and I feel bad for cutting them off. Okay, so all right, does that sound good, Omid? Are we on the same page?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
Why don't you go ahead whenever you're ready, and everybody listen so you can give him some feedback when he's finished.
Hey everyone, my name is Omid. I have a PhD in aerospace engineering. After my PhD, I just faced some challenges with the entertainment industry, and I realized that sometimes I'm just watching things, and then I realized that this is a garbage, that I wasted my time. And also other issues that I just faced during just watching movies and just streaming networks in general. So I decided, I came up with an idea, and just throughout over time, I just like added a lot of features to it. So after a while, when I finished my business plan, everything that was supposed to be done, I just like found a group of people. We are 3 PhDs working on this app. It's a cross-platform app that just like works on mobile TV, smart TVs, and websites. The whole point is just like when you're watching something on TV, or when you're just like listening to music, or you're just like watching video games, it will just like the AI would go and extract the features from the movies. For example, like when you're just like watching a movie and someone's just like wearing a very nice shirt, the app would just like go and just like find out what is this shirt, what are the similar shirts in what marketplace or in what store that you can buy close to your home. Or if you're just like, it's a restaurant and they're just like eating like Taiwanese food or just like Chinese food, it will just like go and just like find out what type of food it is and just like find out the closest restaurant that has that type of food. So that's the whole idea. The whole point is like, and it also aggregates all the streaming networks, movies in the same place, like Netflix, everything else. The thing is like right now it's just like a $500 billion market, and it just like has an 8% compound growth rate. What we are just like going to do our money is just like going to be affiliate market. So whenever we just like refer someone to a store, we're just going to get some commissions from the store that we're referring to, if it's just like clothes or if it's anything else, or if it's a restaurant or anything else. In addition to that, we're just like going to have our own inventory that we're going to list those products, and we're also going to just like make money on the side from that. And we're going to have premium features that will just like aggregate more stuff into that. My time is done.
Sure. You just want to go ahead and wrap it up. It sounds like you're almost there.
Yeah, so the whole point is just like it will. Right now, it's a $500 billion. We're just like thinking like by the time we just like hit like about 50,000 people, we might just like hit like about $100 million of revenue. Like basically, that's at least the very rough estimate that we have right now.
Excellent. All right. Well, good job. So that's come a long way since last time, I think. You were here last month or 2 months ago?
Last month, yeah.
Last month. Okay. Yeah. And it's much more coherent now. I see the story. It's emerging. Yeah. Good job. Yeah. Okay. So everybody who's in the chat room, go ahead and put any conversational suggestions you have for him. If you have feedback, something he didn't say or could have said differently or better, please share that with him. So from my point of view, yes, better. Good job. That's progress. Impressive, obviously, PhD, multiple PhDs, in fact, on this. And that's the big question these days with AI, obviously, right? Can you guys actually do this? So it sounds like maybe you could. That's a rare thing, as you know. So let's talk about the business model then, and the market opportunity. So the big thing I see missing is the go-to-market. So if we grant that what you're doing makes sense and will make money, which is its own discussion, obviously, something you didn't say anything about was how you're going to acquire customers. And that's a big thing that you probably want to talk about, because even if this was working, it's just so busy online these days. How do you get anybody's attention? And to do that cost effectively is really a concern I'm sure for you, but also for investors, right? So, and that leads to another point I was going to make, which is about use of funds, right? So I think if I grant that everything is going to work, if we were writing you a check, I would want to know, so what are you going to do with the check, and how does that acquire customers in bulk so that it scales? Because you said twice, at least, there's a $500 billion market, which is a great big market. Sounds good. But how are you going to get some percentage of that, of course, right? And that, it sounds like, unfortunately, with 3 PhDs, I'm guessing, and I could be wrong, you don't have anybody who's an expert on marketing, I'm guessing, or go-to-market.
That's what we lack, actually.
Yeah. So, okay. So I caught you. that is the whole that. So that's what you'd probably need to address a little bit, because your own credentials speak loudly on the tech side in a good way. And that is the hard part here. So honestly, if you could build this thing, that is what people are really going to want to see as a demo, right? That's very cool. Are you along the way on a demo?
We are 80% done, because when you just like go through that technical route, you're just like trying to just like establish the whole thing right from the beginning. So if you want to scale up the whole coding wise and everything will just like be very coherent. So we are not going to face any problems. So as soon as we get fundings, it's very easy to scale up right now. That's why we're in 80%. So all the components are done. We are in the integration part. So we're just like testing and integrating. But the separate components like front end, back end, the AI components are all done. But the issue is just like I didn't know how to fit all of these things in 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
absolutely. No, and it's 2 minutes is absolutely an artificial constraint, but that's kind of the point in some
yeah,
ways, right? Is to force you to prioritize. So
yeah.
we're getting some feedback in the chat room. I don't know if you can see that right now, but uh, Xiang says, "I'd like to know what is the product about or what problem it is trying to solve within the first few sentences." So that's a fancy way of get to the point faster. That's probably good advice. Um, Dan from Australia seems really passionate about what your work is, but it's hard to understand where the call to action is, what you want from the pitch audience, and what you will return to customers and investors. So that's true. So there was you didn't ask again 2 minutes, right? So you couldn't say everything, but in a real pitch situation, you always want to end with a request. And ideally with some sort of structure to it, whatever, 2 million on a 5 million pre-safe note or something. And I'm sure you're aware of that, but that was probably a time constraint, but it is still true. Danny says you're saying like too much, so you're probably nervous. You want to work on that. And then I think Sergio makes a good point here. You lost him in the first 15 seconds, less about you, more about your value proposition. And I think that's right. And this is, again, that's why we practice. No shame in any of this, right? You can watch it in the replay. You kind of warmed up a little and then you got going. You got to practice so you can just hit it right away. And, we do this for these kind of people, we make money like this, like get it all on the table right away. And then you can kind of fill in the supports, especially with something as complicated as what you're suggesting. And that is, I don't think been done. Has this been done before? I haven't seen anything like this yet.
We only have one rival, but they already just amassed about $80 million on the seed fundings, and there's only one. But what they do is just like a small portion of what we are doing, basically.
Okay, so that sounds like a good thing, but as an investor, I'll tell you that actually scares me because my final piece, and we'll move on to Dan or some other folks. If you bite off too much, it's hard to deliver, right? And I'm sure you're seeing the scope creep, right? It's like, so I would really encourage you, like as your friend, like figure out where can you make the first dollar first? Like of all these ideas, like what's the one that will get some adoption, that will truly solve a problem and actually demonstrate that this turns into the flywheel of customer adoption? Because having, 14 features and 12 revenue streams is just a recipe for distraction from an investor's point of view. I'd much rather have you say, we're going to kill it at this one thing. And then maybe we'll expand to 2 and 3, but each one ideally based on revenue or profits from the first one, right?
Yeah.
Being smart, especially from an academic background like you and your team are, you've been trained to value understanding a lot of things at once. And that's actually a disadvantage from an investor's point of view. We want you focused, how are you going to make the money? And that I think would also address my first concern, which is about the go-to-market. Because if you can find a product market fit about somebody who really needs this, then they'll pay for it. And that starts to demonstrate immediately the traction you need. And maybe you can drop those 12 other things because maybe it's 12 separate businesses. I mean, this does well, right? You could do a public 12 times, right? So focus.
Well, here's the thing, we just have only 4 areas that we are just focusing on. Okay. One is movies, the other one is music, the other one is video games and text, basically video, audio, text, and video games. Those are the 4 components. And I was having a much deeper idea to connect these things, because one of the revenues that we are going to get is from selling data. For the data mining and for AI, some of these things, to just get a sense of who's our user. We get more information from the user, and we can just produce a more customized product at the end, or more customized suggestion for the user. So that was the initial idea. But our going to the market would be through movies. That's the niche that we are going to do.
Start with movies.
Yeah, so we did some market segmentation, and we just realized that we probably have to just target women in the age of middle class to upper middle class, and just from age of 35 to 45 probably. That's where we just are mostly targeting in. But we are just doing some sort of a market analysis to see if we just get into that part, how much of it attractions or how much tractions we are going to gain from them. So we have just have chosen about 5 different groups of 10 people from different age ranges, from like 20 to 30, 30 to 40, that way. And they're just like going to release our app in a beta version to each one of those age ranges and see what type of feedback we're going to get from
That's a
them.
good idea. I think customer engagement is right, because what occurs to me as you're saying this is you're talking about users. I'm talking about customers.
Yeah.
Well, those are different. That's my point, right?
That's true.
So the user might be the middle-aged woman who likes, romance movies or
No,
whatever.
that's customer. Yeah.
Is she going to pay for this though? That I don't think so.
We don't work on the subscription base.
That's my point. You need to focus on the customer, not the user. Who's actually going to pay you to do this and collect all that data? It's probably the movie studios, I'm guessing, right? That's your customer. The user is different than the customer. And I think it will help you clarify your business model a lot. Just collecting data in the abstract is cool, but who are you actually going to sell it to? Investors want to know who's going to pay, right? And I should warn you also, another thing, affiliate marketing is a legitimate, respected avenue, but it's not one that investors like. And this is why. Because that's a marketing expense for the companies that are paying, and it's capped, right? You're lucky to get 3, 5, 10% as an affiliate. You can't grow that infinitely the way OpenAI can theoretically grow its revenue, right? So affiliate marketing it's maybe a place to start, but I think you need to bear down on who the customers are. How can you get them to pay more than an affiliate marketer would pay, and how that is different than who the users are? Because it sounds like I don't want to put words in your mouth. You're smarter than I am about this, so you guys could figure it out. But I would spend some time thinking about the customers.
Okay.
And Dan says something from Australia. This is a great one. Actually, Dan, I think that was Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn. If you're not embarrassed by your first release, you've waited too late. So go ahead and get something out there. see what people think. And that might be, it sounds like you're underway to do that. To have talking to those groups of 10 people is really smart, because they'll tell you a lot. It's good to get out of your own head and talk to some actual customers. So nice to see you again. We're going to have to move on here, but thanks for playing with us, and I hope keep us posted. It's exciting stuff. So AI is everywhere, coming into your movie screens and everywhere else. Hi to Srileka from Hyderabad and Dan from Down Under. Ziyang, I didn't hear where you were from, but welcome to you as well. We're going to keep going here. I think my friend Dan, sorry, is that Dan? Yeah, Dan. Dan is backstage, so we're going to bring him on here in a minute. If any of you in the chat room have questions tonight, you can put those in as well, and we'll fill up our hour with some chat from you guys if you'd like. Happy to contribute if we can, some expertise toward what you're working on. So now we're going to bring Dan in, and Dan has a cool company. There he is. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Scott.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you also.
Let's try your pitch, I guess, right? You know the deal, and can kind of go whenever you'd like.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for the welcome. My name is Dan Urelli, and I'm co-founder of My Language, and we develop a technology that does voice-to-voice translation 100% offline in real time on edge devices. And so in 2021, we were actually responded to a problem posed to us by the U.S. Coast Guard, where they were looking to communicate with people who don't speak English in the middle of the ocean. So we entered into the Silicon Valley Innovation Program, which is under the Department of Homeland Security. And now 4 years later, we have developed a solution that does voice-to-voice translation offline for 24 languages. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also came onto the project. We've wrapped up phase 4, and we've just finished prototyping and evaluation with 140 different users out there. And so we have verbal approval to move on to phase 4, which will be operational testing. And we've already also started chipping into the $100 million obtainable market in this $30 billion kind of voice-to-voice translation market we're targeting. We were accepted into a NATO Diana accelerator at the end of last year, and we just made our first sale to a group that's selling to the UK Ministry of Defense. So sold them a prototype of 20. So we're also in discussions with the Danish Military of Defense, Belgium Ministry of Defense, and then also moving into the consumer market. So we're partnering with some consumer applications and looking to kind of expand, grow from just government into consumer and really expand into the dual use space. We've also started building out an SDK that can integrate into other applications that need offline translation. And we are looking to raise right now. So we're looking to raise $900,000 to really accelerate our product development into the consumer space, as well as our software development kit, and accelerate our sales pipeline. Thank you all very much for your time. If you please join me, please find me on LinkedIn, Dan Urelian. Together we can break down language barriers across the globe. Thank you.
Nicely done. Well, congrats on all the traction, man. There's a lot going on.
It's a lot, yeah, since we last chatted.
That's great. Okay, well, sorry, and there's the timer. So your timing was perfect. Yes. So yeah, wow, that's a whole bunch of different defense ministries and so forth. Excellent. So before we talk about yours, I just want to point out to Omid and anybody else listening, did you see what Dan did there? He started with a solution, a real solution to it, a real problem that people are going to pay for. So it's a bit different approach because this is a practical, real world sort of situation that they're trying to address. And of course, they have the Department of Defense, like really, really big customers potentially out there worldwide. So that's the way to get investors' attention. Big market, real problem, obvious budgets dedicated to solving this problem. So that's what I would think. Omid and other folks, think more about who your customer is, because that's what he led with. Basically, we have huge customers. So, okay, so Dan, back to you. So nice job. So everybody in the chat room, go ahead and offer any suggestions you have. Welcome Pranav from Karnataka. They say Karnataka, right? And Dan from Down Under, he's hooked. Very good. Yeah, concise about the product and the problem it's solved. Good. Okay, so yeah, I think you're getting better at this all the time, and obviously you've done it a bunch. I guess I would. Did I hear? I was doing two things at once. I apologize. Did you say what you're raising? Did you do an ask?
I asked for. We're looking for 900,000. We've been
okay.
So yeah, and just a little context for everybody out there. We tried to raise in the middle of last year, and we were having a little bit of challenges because we didn't have a customer other than the R&D folks from Department of Defense. And I think we probably could have pushed harder and we weren't looking at the right, but a lot of people wanted to see us come back with actual customers, somebody else paying for us. Because we're the pedigree of me and my other founder, we didn't have a startup before. We're not from a high degree of like a university. And I don't know how much that plays into it, but a lot of what we heard was like, hey, go get a different customer, somebody paying for your product, get some more traction, and then come back to us. So that's this is kind of our second swing where we're about to make the round again.
Yeah,
with a little bit more traction, it feels like.
Yeah, well, I remember I saw you a year ago. I think you pitched at the Price is Right event I
did.
Ran at Tech Week last year, right? Yeah, you've come a long way, baby. Good job. So okay, so that's good. Yeah, so my point was to always have an ask, so that's good. Just a couple things. I mean, honestly, you demonstrated a lot of traction, so that's good. That's what people want, especially as you said, if you don't have the 5 gold star resume, then you've got customers. Well, money solves a lot of problems, right? So that's great.
Yeah.
I'm always curious. There's a little bit of lingo. I think you should be a little careful about jargon, like edge devices. To me, whenever I hear your pitch, that's a big deal. You kind of blow past that, but I think that's significant. Most people don't realize that. Oops. We lost each other. We back?
Yeah, we're back.
Okay, good. That real-time uplink may not be available in critical situations. So being able to do this on an edge device is both important for delivery, but also demonstrates the power of your technology. You've squeezed this huge databases down to something that works on a mobile phone, right? So that's a thing, man. I mean, at least to me. And you kind of blow past that. So at least for me, I think you could make a little more of that. And then you also.
Uh-oh. Oh,
Yeah.
Is it me or you?
I think it's me. I apologize. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, I was just going to say, I was talking to some DoD people the other day, and they all dual use. Civilians don't know what dual use means. So I think that means dual. You tell me, actually. It's military and civilian. Is that all it means?
That's right. I mean, a lot of the government agencies and even the NATO agencies, they want to fund development that is going to solve a government problem, but then also can be adapted for the consumer market. That seems to be really, really heavy on. And I think maybe one of the reasons is you're going to develop something from the government, but then you're going to go make money in the consumer market, which you're going to pay taxes on. I don't think that's maybe a side thing also, but a lot of them want to see the investment that they're making, because the programs, a lot of the government programs also are what's called non-dilutive. So they will give you, say, $500,000 and won't ask for any equity. They're just pumping money into startups to build solutions to solve their problems, but they don't take any equity, and they just give you funding. So they want you to take that. They want you to take your solution and then also turn that into a product that's going to help the economy and help the consumer market. So
Yeah.
That's really, I think, what the ethos of dual use is,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Okay. So my point is that matches my understanding, but people who aren't in the government business don't know necessarily what that means. It's jargon, right? So I think you should just say, and in fact,
Yeah.
we got a question in the chat room. Danny says, great pitch. I still feel like I want to know, though, who the consumer market is. Most consumers have access to the internet, so I'm unsure who is needing the offline thing. So I think it's in there, but I've heard the pitch a few times, right? And that idea of dual use, again, just maybe unpack it a little. Again, you only had 2 minutes, so no fault. But those are concepts that if you're pitching a government audience, they know. But if you're not, like here, or a general event, you might want to just be a little less jargon.
That's good.
Yeah. So okay, anything else from the chat room here? So Dan has okay, Dan, I can talk about that in a second. Okay, yeah, I didn't have a whole lot else there, Dan. You're just making sense, and you have so much traction now. It's so exciting to hear all those different defense organizations interested. I guess the only other thought I have would be maybe there's a specific story to make it come alive even more. Like you say that the Coast Guard contacted you originally. Maybe there's a specific example that one of your customers could give, or honestly, you could almost make it up and just say, for example, if this happened, like you can think better than I can, but maybe a child got separated from their parents during an immigration situation and they didn't speak the language, and you want to help the kid, and but you're at sea and you can't, you don't have an uplink, or I don't know, something like that could bring it home even a little more. And then the other thought I had is, given the government focus, at least for the initial use of this, is you might want to say something about market conditions, because the world's a little crazy right now. And you might, if you have any insights into whether, all the tariffs and trade war or China, this or that, is going to drive increased or decreased demand, because every investor likes to be on top of a trend. And if you see this accelerating for some reason, that's a win at your back, then that would be something worth mentioning. So.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate that. I see there's a note from Danny number 2, consumer who, like, most consumers have access to the internet, so I'm sure what is needed on the offline thing. I'll make a couple comments on that real quick, and I'm curious if there's any other insights. So a lot of the internet services you're going to be sending your information over the cloud into servers that are then going to analyze and send you back the data. 2 things comes up. Yes, if you don't have internet, then you won't be able to use that. So that's the obvious one, but there is internet everywhere. But the second part, and this is kind of what we backed into with it being offline and voice to voice, is that by virtue of that, you can also make it private and secure. So none of the conversations that are happening in these foreign languages is sent over the internet to, if you look at Google Translate, they say, hey, we're going to use your data to improve our service. So anything that's said over Google Translate isn't private and secure. So we also start getting into an interesting area that we kind of realize that it's like, well, since we're offline, we're also private and secure. So that's another aspect of this that's interesting, maybe to consumers. If you don't want to have or marketing angle, if you don't want to have your information broadcast over the internet, we can help you. Or also, if it works when it's offline. And then one other thing is that since we're offline, there's really low latency, which means it goes really, really fast and in real time. So you're not waiting a second or two. Mm-hmm. You're getting more towards natural language, where you're getting almost like a translation within a second. So that's also something we're working on, where we're really trying to make almost a universal translator, like Star Trek style. So those are kind of the 3 points I would bring up to kind of talk to not just the consumer market. I think that's cool there, but I think, as Scott noticed, I think a lot of the applications for this are going to be in the government space. There's a lot of need there. And then the consumer market, we're looking at that as a way to expand what we're doing, but also to give people kind of a freebie to try. One of our target customers are first responders. So we eventually want to move into police and fire departments and ambulance drivers. And they can access, people are going to be looking at an app store for this stuff. So they can access an application that gives them a taste of what we're doing and then say, hey, we can also make this domain specific. We can also make this secure for you. We can also add a phrase book and customize this for your application. Then we can bring them in that way. So that's how we think about the consumer market a little bit. But we need funding to build out that consumer app. So if any investors are out there, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, so that was good stuff. So that inspired a couple more comments for me to try to help you keep it along there. One is the question of competition. So don't have time to get into that now, but that, I don't know if there is any or isn't, but that's something you didn't really address and you might want to. I really like the speed thing because that everybody's frustrated. Everybody wants faster internet always, right? So that's a good one to mention in any context. But my real point here is I think it would be helpful to you in terms of raising money to focus on either government or consumer. If you're trying to do both, investors, we immediately see that you're splitting your focus, you're splitting your budget, you need different teams, you need different resumes. You know, it's like I said to Omid, I think you'd be better off saying we're going to nail not even just government, because that's a really big umbrella, but specifically, you've got a bunch of defense departments, it sounded like, or whatever, or it's firefighters, or like pick something, land and expand. You've probably heard that phrase. If you could demonstrate that you're nailing a big market, you don't need to talk about consumer. Like you could certainly say, and I still think I would mention it. You say like, once we kill this, we're going to expand to consumer, and imagine how great that's going to be. But leave it at that, like, because it's distracting, right? You need to make a bunch of money, and it's going to be a real challenge even to do what you're doing just in government, much less consumer. So I think you'd be better served to focus and make the pitch even narrower, even though that's hard to do as an entrepreneur because you don't want to give up any potential profit. But investors tend to be B2C or B2B investors also, right? So you probably find your investors more receptive if you pick one or the other lane. So, okay, well, one more question here, and then I'm going to bring on Mark. So Omid, what's the latency right now? Does it do voice cloning too?
Yeah, good question. Voice cloning is not there right now. We leverage either our own text-to-speech model. So voice cloning is like if you talk into it, it'll mimic your voice, and then comes out as your voice. So we trained 3 different models. Speech recognition is the first one. Translation is the second one. Text-to-speech is the third one. We're using off-the-shelf text-to-speech or training our own models right now. For example, we had to train our own for Haitian Creole. I think one thing we didn't mention also is we will do low resource languages that no one else kind of supports. There's no, go Google Translate, there's no voice to voice for Haitian Creole, something that was US Coast Guard. So yeah, no voice cloning right now. Latency, it depends on the device. So we support, iPhone and Android right now for our customers, and ICE goes down to 3 gigabyte iPhone, so it runs a little bit slower there, but throw more hardware you can throw at it, the better the models and the faster. And we measure that. So we'll measure that in like words per second, inference speed, which is how fast you can process. So we measure and try to improve that all the time. But good question.
Yeah, good questions. And then Chiro says, and then we're going to need to move on, but is this part of Qualcomm processors on edge devices? Google may be developing something similar.
I'm not as familiar with that. I think like when it comes to, like, I think Google could come in and do what we're doing. You're sure they can do a lot of stuff. I don't know if that's Google's business model, so I'm not particularly worried. I think, they had Google Translate already. If they wanted to do something like this, they could. I think one thing that's also, like, they call it your moat, is that we are domain specific. So we will train specific models for like maritime instance. So we'll be able to handle muster your crew at the starboard bow, where Google Translate and those companies are so big that they may not focus on specific domains like health, like maritime or potentially like immigration. So that's also something we use to kind of separate us from the main translation services. But I mean, if Google wanted to come in and do what we're doing, we're not going to stop them. But I don't worry about that because I can't control that.
Yeah, I agree. Let me address that too. But so thank you, Dan. It was good to see you. I think I'll be seeing you at some events in the near future too.
Yeah,
so
probably.
Look forward to that. So Chiro, it is a good point. And I just want to chime in. I agree with Dan. Google doing this, absolutely, probably, right? I mean, they're going to try to do everything. But this is a good example, I think, that all of you entrepreneurs should take heart with, because they may do it, but will they do it well? And will they do it with the focus and passion that a founder entrepreneur will? Probably not. What they might do is acquire you. So I think it's fine if they have an interest in this space. Investors aren't necessarily scared by that. What we are going to ask is, how does what you're doing build into a separate business that is a feature that Google will want to acquire as opposed to just building and putting you out of business. So some differentiation. So you're not wrong at all, but in my experience, it's more about the passion and the hustle of getting this thing to market. And then somebody as big as Google, if you put a year and a couple $1,000,000 in it and they buy you for 50 million, everybody's happy, right? So that isn't necessarily a bad thing. So I would be careful about those big boys, but also don't let them talk you out of it, right? Because it's up to you to make your mark in the world, and you're the one that's got the passion to pursue whatever the project is. And odds are, even if you gave them 100% of your business plan and every strategy in your head, they would implement it differently because they have different people and different resources and constraints, and they're not going to build what you're going to build as well as you're going to build it. At least that's what I believe. So I would encourage you to be bold and try anyway. And you won't win every time, but the odds are, I think, in the favor of the individual entrepreneur, at least in new spaces like this. You're not selling socks or batteries, trying to compete with Amazon.com, for example. But in new areas like this, language translation, or what Omid was talking about, AI using to, dissect media streams, things like that. Nobody's really doing that yet. So I think it is still an opportunity for early stage entrepreneurs to do it themselves and do it in an exciting way that hopefully gets acquired. Okay, so Dan, I wanted to visit your question about lack of qualifications, but I was going to bring Mark on here for a second. And Mark, hey, Mark, how are you?
Yes.
How are you? You're cutting out. Did you have a question? I can't hear you. I heard you say yes, and then I haven't heard anything else. Am I wrong, guys? Anybody in the chat room? Can you hear him?
You hear me now?
Oh, there we go. There you go.
So how to evaluate some applications? I'm working on my already since March 2016. I celebrated 9 years.
Wow.
Initially worked with humans, but war in Europe stopped it. And now for last 3.5 months, I employ 3 AIs working with my developers and sysadmins. And
Wow.
I'm one in the middle, and project manager.
Great. Good job.
But already show progress on my second edition of the program. And it's I'm not sure how to evaluate the whole ordeal, how much money it should be produced or be valuable for investors. I don't know how to show my work.
Yeah. Remind me what the product is. I don't remember.
The product is a SaaS platform helping businesses create multimedia press kits in 10 minutes.
Right. Okay. So what's your question then?
The question is how to evaluate it, then because of I can put price on my product as a $1 how Strats sold right now for $1, but I cannot put any tangible numbers for people.
Right, as investors, you mean? Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, so that's a traction question then, right? So I think you probably need to do some testing or customer discovery, they call it, where you, like, if you have no traction at all, you need to kind of make some traction up. So maybe buy some Facebook ads or Google ads or LinkedIn ads for your target market and see what kind of percentage you get for people clicking. Maybe put up a wait list or an email list saying, we'll give you a discount when it launches, or, join the wait list. And you just try to find some ways to demonstrate that people are interested. Because
I had something like that, I put a couple videos a couple years ago on YouTube.
Okay.
Both of them got more than 100,000 viewers.
Wow.
In 1 week.
Great. Okay.
I didn't have the product. I didn't have the call for action. It was just, but it was such a demand for topic.
Yeah. Okay. That's impressive. Well, then I guess maybe try that again. And did you put at the end of it, please come over here and join our email list? You want to try to
Yeah,
capture
that
those.
makes sense.
Yeah, try to capture those people so that you have people to market to,
Mhm.
and maybe start sending them updates on the progress. Yeah, and then LinkedIn these days you can target pretty well. You could target. I don't know if are you targeting marketing professionals or more people that are not marketing professionals?
It's more for non-marketing
Yeah,
professionals.
okay, that's what I thought.
Marketing professionals seems to be competitors.
Right, right.
But I didn't know. I didn't know, for example, how to weigh the economical potential of that. I asked Grok 3, to give them a price range, and I got fantastic numbers.
Uh,
Yes, I just need to find out right people to make this fairy tale life.
yeah, exactly. Well, that is the challenge, right? That's what I was telling Omid earlier. These days, distribution or go-to-market strategy is a big part of the game, more than it ever has been before. Reaching people and getting their attention is very expensive. Dan in the chat room there says, in my opinion, value can be understood by the level of interest or the customer base that are willing to pay. And I think he's right. You're caught in that chicken and egg situation. You need to find who values this approach enough to pay for it, and then maybe get some testimonials from them. And I would think about some sort of viral marketing loop to try to build in. Like, is there something you can build? Maybe a freemium sort of idea, like you give away a basic version, and if they share it with their friends, it unlocks a better version, that kind of thing, so that there's a viral sharing component. That's a low cost way to market. But I think it comes back to trying to build your own audience. So maybe if you had such luck on videos before, that sounds like a good way to go. 100,000 views.
It was so sudden and fantastic, a hockey stick.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, why not start there?
I know.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's good to see you. There's a couple events coming up here in Orange County, so I'm sure I'll be seeing you again in the next couple of days, weeks. But I hope that's helpful. And anybody else, let's see what else we've got in the chat room as well from Mark there. Anybody have suggestions about that? He's got a marketing kit for non-marketers, essentially kind of a self-serve generation. Actually, Mark, you should put your URL in the chat room here. Maybe some people here would be interested or be able to give you feedback, beta testers and so forth. Actually, you're backstage, Mark. You need to go over to YouTube or LinkedIn because that only shows to me. I can see it though. You said perfectinvention.com. Okay, well, that's pretty straightforward. That's a nice URL. Perfectinvention.com. If anybody's interested in that, maybe you can head over there, and you can find Mark on LinkedIn as well. Mark Aretskin. So, okay. So let's see. If anybody has any more questions, go ahead and put them in the chat room before we wrap up. But I did want to head back and address. There was a question that Dan had asked where he said something like this. Definitely feeling and relating to the lack of qualifications blocker. How does one push past these barriers without saying, trust me? And that is that's a great distinction, Dan. It's a challenge, right? And I'll tell you, everybody has this feeling. Even people with, perfect resumes have this imposter syndrome if they're trying to do something challenging, right? So it certainly helps to have gone to Harvard Business School, no doubt about it, right? And it's easy for me to say I'm a Stanford Law School graduate, right? So I am speaking a little bit out of school, but at the same time, I can tell you still, anyone that walks into a challenging situation is going to question their own ability and their own belief in their ability to deliver whatever it is they're selling. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a challenge, right? If like driving my kids to school is not a challenge. I'm not worried about that, right? But going into a boardroom and pitching a big idea for millions of dollars it's in a field you haven't done before, or maybe that you're inventing, like some of our pitchers tonight. Everybody's going to feel that way. So don't feel alone is my point. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you're right. Everybody feels this way. So how does one push past? This is really the question. What do you do beyond just trust me? And I think it really is about small steps towards building the resume, both of yourself and of the company. So you want to look at, like, credentials wise, it's obvious, right? I went to college here, and then I got a master's degree or a PhD from Harvard or whatever, and then I worked at Google, and then I, took that company public, or, like big stuff. That's kind of, we're used to that. But this also applies to a company and a startup company. So your credibility can be a function of the success of the company, right? So I know several very successful entrepreneurs who didn't go to college, who don't have resumes per se at all, except that they kicked ass and built products that people wanted to buy and made a bunch of money and made their investors money. And now nobody questions where they went to school or their credentials, because they've proven themselves with previous steps. So my point is, for your company, you need to do that same sort of ladder of building up little steps. And these can be things like what I was just talking about with Mark. What is it that can validate your approach, your idea, your team, all of that? Because investors are looking at all of that. You're right to be a little self-conscious, right? Because we are looking, right? What makes an investor want to invest? Well, we want the whole package. We want somebody who's going to kick ass in every department, right? And of course, that's rare, but that's what we're looking for. We're looking for unicorns, right? So I think what I would do is look at your company and start to build, and this is for Mark and everybody else too, start to build small wins that can build into larger wins, right? So, for example, I think Omid said they were going out and talking to 10 customers. That's a great start. Talk to 10 customers. Then generate some numbers. Investors eat numbers, right? We want numbers. So we say we talked to 10 customers, and 9 out of 10 wanted to buy our product. Okay, well, that's more than nothing, right? Now you're on your way. So talk to 50 more, talk to 100. Or like I just said to Mark, put some ads out on the internet somewhere. Take $50 or $100 and buy a bunch of ads and see what people click on. And then in your next investor meeting or the next update email you send, you could say, well, we talked to 10 customers, 9 out of 10 were interested. So then we did some ads and we spent $100, and we got this many click-throughs and this many signups for our email list. And these many people took the survey that said they would be interested in this product if we launched it. And then do it again, a little bigger, a little badder, maybe in a deeper or more sophisticated way. Maybe now you've got enough encouragement that you could do some mock-ups, some prototype photographs, or AI generated these days of, what does this thing look like, or what does the website look like, and get some reaction. And again, run numbers. We sent this to 1,000 people, and 85.6 of them, meaning 856 of them, thought it was cool, right? So you just kind of like build it up, build it up, build it up. So Dan, when you go into the meeting, it isn't all about who am I and am I impressive or not. It's about, here, look what we've built. I have a bunch of numbers that we've run all these tests, and we've sized the market like this, and we have this kind of interest and this kind of conversion rate. And then as you keep going and building those numbers, the importance of your personal connections or credentials will decrease. So that was a long answer. I hope that made sense. But that's the fact, right? We're not interested in anything. When I say we, I mean the investors. We're not interested in anything but reducing risk. So de-risking the investment for the investor is the key to your pitch. So that's why, a person who worked at Google, or a person who used to be IBM, right? Or you have a PhD in AI, like maybe Omid and his friends, like it's not so much that we care about that in and of itself. It's that de-risks us for us. Like in Omid's case, they're building an AI company. Okay, but do you know anything about AI? Yeah, well, actually, I have a PhD in that. Like, oh, okay. It wasn't because I wanted you to have a PhD. It's because I wanted less risk. And if you have a PhD, that equals less risk, I think, right? It's shorthand for de-risking. So the more you can have small wins that show the company can do what you promise, the less it is about you. And that's really what investors want. Honestly, we don't want it to be about you. If we wanted to invest in an individual, we'd give like scholarships, right, to go to college or something. We're not investing in an individual. We're investing in products and companies that can scale. And that would be the way I would address that. And I hope that's helpful. So let's see. Okay, so we're going to wrap up here in another minute here. Let's see. Well, sorry. So Dan, I was just talking to him. So he said, freemium is my startup model and it works. People will stay and pay if they see value in the product or service. I agree with that 100%. And that's kind of what I was suggesting to some of our other pitchers here tonight. Try to get out there and get people to taste it at least. when it's cheap or free is even better. And then, then maybe you can upgrade them and upsell them. And at least, as I mentioned a couple times, use that to build your email list, because the email list is the only thing you can really own these days. Facebook or Google or OpenAI, they can change their algorithms anytime and essentially deplatform you, right? So an email list is key. So everything you do should be building your list for updates and product releases and announcements so that you can market. Okay, a couple more questions coming in here late in the day. So let me just follow up with that, Omid, and then Chris and Jason, we can follow up with that. What did Omid say there? You mentioned I should say less about me. Should I mention my PhD or my groups? Does it create credibility or might hurt? No, I think Omid, absolutely you can mention it. Absolutely, it's a great way to open that discussion, right? If you were doing something, in AI especially, right? As you were my example, literally, right? As you were typing that question, I gave you as an example. Sure, if you have the credentials, absolutely. There's two ways to do that, of course. One is at the beginning, which I think in your case is fine. I wouldn't beat it too hard because you can come back to the detail later if they ask you. But this is AI, is a highly technical, highly competitive area. Oh, you have a PhD? Great. I think you said it was aerospace or something. So that's good because it's specific. You're not claiming you have one in AI as I did in the example, but it's like, okay, that's close enough. This guy is serious. He's got a brain. He knows how to do technical work. I absolutely think that's worth mentioning. The other way to do it is at the end. Especially then you might introduce your teammates, right? Because it's not just me, it's these other guys too. That is, given how technical your area is, I think it is fine to say it up front, but I would just say it quickly. So people are like, okay, I'll listen. And then at the end, maybe revisit it. I wouldn't spend the whole introduction about your credentials because in your case, you've got such frontier tech that I think it's really about, will it work? And who's, like I said, who's the customer? Like, what's the business here? Like, okay, I'll believe you for a moment that you can do this, but how's it going to make money? Will this work is really the question for you, I think. So I'd spend more time on that. Okay. Chris says, have a question about raising from angels. We started about a year ago and have bootstrapped to 8 figures in revenue. Good job. Everybody give Chris a hand. And wanted to understand if angels would be interested in a 3 to 5x return as opposed to 100x. Our funding strategy was to seed, strap, and scale with debt and PE. If we didn't go to the traditional VC route, would angels simply not be interested? So it's a great question, and I would put it on the screen, but it's too long. It won't all show. So hopefully you can all see it anyway, because it's on the screen, at least for me. So, Chris, maybe. There's no such thing as one kind of angel. Your plan totally makes sense, but it all depends on who you meet. It depends on their check size and their interest in that sector and how much they like you and what they had for lunch and everything else. So I can't give you a clear yes, no. What I can say is that venture capital investors clearly want the 100x, and it sounds like you know that. And VC math works such that if you raise funds and most of your investments fail, you need one winner to pay back all the others, and it takes a long time. And so you really need, as Chris said, kind of like a 100x return on at least a couple in every portfolio, and then everybody gets rich and you go and do it again. Angels are not necessarily that way. Some of us are, some of us aren't. So if you're talking to an angel, say, like, who's your uncle, and he's got some money and he's not really worried about 100x, especially because he's old and he's not going to be around to wait 10 or 15 years for that 100x return, then 3 to 5 might sound good, and he loves you, and there you go. There's $100,000 or whatever it is, or $1 million, even if he's rich, and that's awesome, and that's an angel. On the other hand, you've got organized groups like Tech Coast Angels, where I'm a member, and we tend to look for stuff that already has traction, and we're looking for real home runs. I guess I would say that we're maybe not looking for 100x, but because we don't have funds in the same way that a VC would, and we don't take administrative expenses and pay ourselves over that lifespan of the fund and so forth. But we're still looking for real money. So I don't know, 50x, right? But so it depends a lot. That's a long way to say it depends, but just trying to give you some context there. So I think you're making an assumption that it's dangerous, that all angels are the same, and we're not. Angel is anybody with a checkbook. So that, and it literally could be your mom, even if she's broke, if she wants to give you $1,000, that makes her an angel too. So you got to be careful who you talk to. You want to talk to accredited investors and figure out what kind of deals they do before you tell them that you're not looking for 100x, because that will turn off a lot of them quickly. That's kind of implicit in your question. If you are looking for only a 3 to 5x, that sounds more like a bank loan to me. And you said that, right? Debt and PE. So that is a perfectly legitimate thing to do. It's probably not high growth angels, but it may be your rich uncle or your mom. I think a thing for you to do, perhaps, as trying to be helpful here and constructive, you might want to talk to some attorneys or go to some events. The attorneys that specialize in venture capital see a lot of deals like this, and they might have feedback for you. I run the Startup Council. We can do introductions for you. If you've already got 8 figures in revenue, then maybe you have an attorney, but I don't know if you have one that specializes in venture capital. Having somebody like that involved to help you get the best deal, even if it is debt and PE, those people generally do all of those, right? It's not like it's a separate thing, but we could make introductions if that would be helpful. And I would get out and socialize. If you are, I don't know where you're based, but most angel groups will allow successful entrepreneurs to come and visit. For example, if you want to visit, if you're in Southern California, for example, you could come and sit in on a Tech Coast Angels pitch session. In fact, there's one on Monday night that you could come to at Chapman University. And you could see all of that at the ocstartupcouncil.org website. And we have a calendar of all the events. So I would get out and go talk to a bunch of angels. Come talk to us, and you'll get 10 different opinions from 10 different people. But that will take you up the learning curve and hopefully position you for a better raise. So hope that was helpful. And then let's wrap up here with Jason. Jason has been reading about IP. That means intellectual property, for those of you who are new here. Patents and public use. Articles say that even discussing my idea or product in public could jeopardize patenting my concept. That's my current concern. Hi, Jason. Well, yeah, that is a concern for sure. I think you'd be best served by talking to a patent attorney to get specifics about your situation, because like I said at the top of the show, this is not qualified legal or financial advice. I'll put that up there again for anybody. That's for Chris and Omid and everybody. Just talking about something doesn't, yes, it could be a problem. You don't want things to be public knowledge, and you certainly don't want someone else to take that idea and go patent it, because patenting it doesn't necessarily mean that they have built it. So if you've actually built the thing, you want to make sure you're the one who ends up getting to patent it, right? But that's a long and expensive process. There are other ways to protect things, like trade secret, for example, or simply just not telling anyone. Only revealing the secret sauce in waves to only the most trusted advisors and investors, for example. A patent does make your tech public after the filing, and it is technically protected for, I think 17 years is the current regime. But that doesn't mean that people can't see it and imitate it and change something small and refile. And it doesn't mean that people in other parts of the world, or even people here, for example, can't just rip it off and wait for you to sue them, right? A patent's only as good as your litigation budget can afford to enforce it. So lots of concerns there. It sounds like you should talk to a patent attorney. I've got friends in that space if you'd like. Again, you could contact us through our websites, and happy to help you if that's useful. Send you along to some people who could answer questions in more detail. So, all right. Well, I hope that was helpful to you guys. Love some thumbs up or some likes or some follow-up comments, also available and welcome on YouTube or LinkedIn. And if you think this was helpful, please subscribe and like and tell your friends, because we do this all the time. At least once a month. Come on over to YouTube and subscribe for updates. And that way you don't even have to show up on time. You can watch the replays at double speed if you'd like. And happy to help all of you. And I hope to see you again next time. I'm Scott Fox from startupcouncil.org. And I hope that you'll come and visit us there. There are lots of great services there that we've built, especially for early stage startup founders like you. And if we can be of help, please contact us and ask us what we can do better to help you. We're here to help. Thanks for being with me tonight. I'm Scott Fox. Thanks for tuning in to Startup Fundraising Office Hours.